Hello and welcome to Mutual Fund Sahi here presents Smart Nivesh, Sahi Nivesh, partnered by Times Network. I'm now in Chembur, Mumbai, and I'm going to meet Sachet Parida. He's an individual who has planned for his retirement already. So let's go talk to him and find out how he has prepared his financial corpus for his retirement.
My name is Sachet Parida. I have been investing in mutual funds in the last 12 years.
Hi Sachet, thank you for meeting us. Tell me a little bit about yourself first.
So I started my journey from Bhubaneswar. So I was briefly working in Bhubaneswar and this was in 2010, 2012. So I started my investment journey probably in 2012 when I had an education loan, how to balance the loan and how much percent to invest in my salary.
Okay.
So then I found a chartered financial advisor, a CFA. So I started searching who will be the right kind of a person to advise you on how to invest. Then luckily I found a CFA in Bhubaneswar. Initially I was very apprehensive. Should I go for a financial plan or something, because having been done a MBA in finance, I thought I could manage it on my own. But then he made a comprehensive report, and then I also became aware that I need to also save for my retirement. So initially I went in the mind that I need, there was no goal in mind. So then he put some structure into the plan, saying any investment has to be done for goals, and the returns which you expect are to be aligned to the duration of the goals. So that is one important thing which I learned in the starting. So before I got my salary, at least first salary, official salary, the plan was there.
Super.
And then I gradually, started working. Now I'm working in a bank, but the plan which was made like say 14 years back is still there. And the basic goal which is still I am continuing investing, or there's a SIP, is my retirement planning. So I started with amount X probably. The amount of SIPs which is going into my retirement would have become 2x, because every year I'm stepping it up by 10 or 20%.
Sachet, one thing has been that the importance of having a financial advisor is not spoken enough about. People don't know so much about the benefits of that. But you've had a financial advisor since your early days of investing. Tell us a little bit about the benefits, because you're an MBA finance yourself, but you said that you still went to a financial planner. So just tell us about some of the benefits that you've gotten through that.
So one point is, which I earlier also highlighted, is that they put a perspective that and they give you a realistic picture. So if you are having a retirement planning goal, you can invest in a long-term equity kind of products, like a small mid-cap will also do. If my time horizon is 30 years, then you can invest in a small or a mid-cap. The second thing is, see, in this investment journey had a lot of downs also. So when the market crashed during the COVID, so you panic a lot. Yes. So you need someone to talk, and they will just say, okay, this is a temporary blip and it will get over. Like markets have recovered well in COVID. If I would have done it on my own, probably I would have taken out all my funds from a mutual fund and would have sat on it.
Sachet, that's a very important point about the market volatility. If you're invested in equity funds, markets go down, up, all of that. But how do you keep calm, and does the fact play in your mind that you're looking for your retirement goal is many years later? How do you balance that out? What's your mindset? What's your mind space when you think about that?
When this COVID struck in 2020, so one thing I had learned, you did not, if you're investing in mutual fund, you did not time the markets. Because markets will go up and down, and your SIPs are working in the behind the scenes of what is happening really in the market. Many people try to time it even with mutual funds. That should not be done. When COVID struck, my portfolio was in the negative. So it got me a bit worried. But since I had invested constantly, the dip was not that significant as the way the market had dropped, because I was sitting on a good returns in which I had made in the past 9 or 10 years before COVID.
One other point, Sachet, you spoke about very important was on step up SIP. So you said that, when you started, your SIP was a certain amount and then you've grown it over time. What was the rationale behind that?
So one thing also I learned is while we invest, it's the amount of X which you are investing, and with that, when the market increases or the mutual funds NAV increases, you are accumulating lower units. So one thing which I noticed was, even if it's a good time or a bad time, the more the units you accumulate, in the longer run, it is always beneficial.
Right.
So with that in mind, and with even keeping the inflation in mind, whenever my salary increased in the normal course of my career, so if I had a cash component which was there, I invested, I tried to balance that and increased my SIPs gradually. I make an effort to give it a 10 or 20% rise every year.
Boost that.
Boost that,
Booster
boost
shot is
that.
important in SIPs also. One important part, when you said you're planning for retirement early on with the planner, you had that discussion, and you've been working towards that. And now also you still have 2 decades or roughly around that time to still work towards your retirement goal. But the goal also must be changing, right? It's different from what it was 12 years ago to what it is now to what it will be in another 10 years. So how are you updating it, working towards that?
I think we calculated on a amount, let's say at the age of 60, if I have to live at 90, what is the amount which I would need? And on basis that, on 2012, we would have started an investment. But obviously, from 2012 to now 2024, the markets for retirement, at least, the ecosystem. If you see the hospital expenses, if you see the the education or the school expenses which my kids will probably need, these factors have grown considerably versus the inflation. So obviously, if that was in mind, I would not have gone back and calculated how much the amount would increase or not. But consciously, I just made an effort to increase the SIPs.
Sachet, one last thing before I let you go. Your journey has been really inspiring. It's been very interesting. You've started early and you're working with your planner regularly. What's your learnings from the existing journey, for the way ahead also? What's your learnings that you would like to share with our viewers?
So 3 things I'll just want to say. A lot of the young folks I have seen are, we are getting influenced by the FNO returns which the markets are giving. It's important that you build the 2 things which are absolutely necessary before you go to the FNO segment and invest, because it's risky. That is, you build your retirement kitty first, then you have your emergency fund also, which is very important, and people need to keep, at least if you're working in a private sector kind of a thing, at least have a 6 months of your salary as a kitty which is backed up by mutual fund debts or a balanced fund at least, and then you put some of your money in the retirement. So once you have a amount which is there to back up your retirement, the second important thing which I generally advise people is to invest via goals. So generally you don't put on an ad hoc kind of a money and say ki, chalo, this X fund was giving high returns in the past and this is the best, everybody in the social media is talking about this particular fund, but in the long run that may not be always true. Third thing is, try to get an advisor, even if it costs you amount, and people generally look at YouTube videos or social media videos and think that people who are giving free advice is the best advice. You get a paid advice, stick to your investment advisor and your investment plan. In the long run, it will all balance out.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sachet, for talking to us and for sharing your inspiring journey with us. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on Mutual Fund Sahi Hai presents Smart Nivesh, Sahi Nivesh, partnered by Times Network. Welcome back to Mutual Fund Sahi Hai presents Smart Nivesh, Sahi Nivesh, partnered by Times Network. And today on this very special episode, as part of our SIP Heroes series, I'm in conversation with Vishal Jain. He's the CEO of Zerodha Fund House. And Vishal and me today are going to talk about a very important topic, that is, kya mutual fund sahi hai for retirement planning? How do you plan for that? Because in fact, Vishal, it said that retirement is the only goal that you can not get a loan for. You'll get a loan for a house, for a car, for education, for vacation, for a phone, but you won't get it for retirement. So how do you address that, and how do you explain the importance of retirement planning?
So I think one of the most important things to understand is the time value of money, right? The earlier you start investing, the earlier you're able to, build your nest egg. I mean, look at any of the largest investors in the world. Okay, we can start off with a popular guy like, say, Warren Buffett. The first thing that he says is that, look, I started investing when I was 11 years old, right? And it's the sheer length of time which has helped him be where he is, in the investment world. And I think that's very important. We need to understand that the longer you are there in the market, the more your money keeps working for you, right? So that's the first important thing that one needs to remember. The second thing is that the longer you are there in the market, the more disciplined you'll end up becoming, right? Because of the fact that you keep investing over a different period of time, and your portfolio is able to weather, the vagaries of the market. So, a person who's starting at the age of 25 versus, say, a person who's starting at the age of 40, right? A person who's starting at the age of 25, in about 10-15 years, he's able to build a corpus. His portfolio has gone through many ups and downs. He's become an experienced investor, and he's able to understand his needs, goals, and financial requirements, right? And it gives you that much more time to be able to position your portfolio. Whereas if you start at the age of 40, you may end up being a little reckless because you have a shorter period of time to be able to build that corpus that is there. So extremely important for any individual to start early in life.
When you use the word early, I'll take it on another angle. By what I mean is, you're talking about, start investing early. But nowadays what happens is, a lot of people are saying, let's retire early. So again, the period of where the income is, people would like to curtail it, curb it. Your thoughts? Early retirement is very cool nowadays to say FIRE, which is financially independent, retire early. Is it possible for working professionals today? How should they go about it if they want to? What are your thoughts?
No, so definitely it is. I mean, look at it intuitively, Sumit. I'm extremely happy that today individuals and your economy has reached a stage where people are able to think 15 years, 20 years down the line, and your economy has reached that level of stability. So it's heartening to know that people are thinking about that. Becoming financially independent, it's a very natural thing for somebody to think of, and therefore you would possibly need to give up a lot of things that maybe you like in terms of lifestyle and things like that, and therefore be disciplined, be frugal about things, and being able to save more so that you're able to enjoy the latter part of your life.
Vishal, when we talk about retirement planning, there are a lot of products that are available in the market. So in that whole spectrum of products, the role of mutual funds for this, because let's assume retirement, we're talking long term, not about someone who's decided to do it at 55 and retiring at 60, but someone, maybe they're in their 20s, 30s, who are looking to retire after the 60s. Your take on the role of mutual funds in long-term retirement planning?
Right. So there are, I think, 2-3 ways to look at it, Sumit. One is that you keep building your portfolio the way you want to, whether it may be researching stocks, going and buying equity stocks, and then being exposed to the vagaries of the market. But if you're an individual who's working, I don't know how much time you would have to keep looking at your portfolio all the time, and therefore it makes sense to give your money to a professional manager, right? And therefore I think that's where mutual funds come in. Buying stocks on the equity side, or if you're doing debt, or if you're doing fixed deposits, then you're exposed to a bank. The biggest benefit of a mutual fund is that you get diversification, right? So whether it's an equity scheme, whether it's a debt scheme, you are getting exposed to a diversified basket versus you going and picking up those stocks that are there in the market. So basically you're using the professional management, expertise of a mutual fund, and I think that is what you get on the table. Second big benefit is the fact that you have a variety of schemes that are there. So on the equity side, you have large cap schemes, mid cap schemes, small cap schemes, you have flexi cap, multi cap. On the debt side, you have products of different maturities. Now you have even commodity ETFs, gold ETFs, silver ETFs, and various funds that are there. So in one product, right, in one product such as a mutual fund, you could take exposure to different kind of asset classes very easily, and all your investment in a sense being in one place, right? And therefore, I think that it's a very important product for people to have. Also, not forgetting that, remember, it's a regulated product, right? Yeah. And therefore, in terms of transparency, in terms of regulation, I mean, they're far more transparent in terms of disclosures that are there. Also, over the years, I think they've become much easier to invest. And if you look at it, the industry is now moving towards much smaller SIPs as well, right? So the industry is now talking about doing SIPs of 250 rupees, and therefore, any investor can start off today even with just small amounts and can invest in, say, the India growth story or something with just 250 rupees as well, yeah.
One concern, Vishal, we hear from a lot of people is that, yaar, volatility बहुत है equity में, specifically equity में there's a lot of volatility. So how do we, even if you're planning for your retirement, you want stability, but there is volatility. How do you manage that? What's your take?
Again, not an easy question, Sumit, for anyone to answer, but when you're getting into the markets, you have to remember that the only thing certain in the markets is uncertainty, right? The only way to protect your portfolio is, I would say, the 2 Ds. One is discipline and diversification, right? And these 2 Ds, if you're able to implement, it'll solve a lot of issues such as volatility in the markets that are there. One thing, discipline. Keep investing at different points of time in the market, preferably through an SIP route, because that then is not exposing you to one point of time in the market, and that you're making investments over a period of time. The second thing is diversification, and I don't mean diversification within an asset class. I mean, you should diversify across asset classes, whether it's equity, debt, or even commodity. Simple examples. Whenever you look at any kind of stress in the market, right, you will find gold shoots up, right? So imagine having a combination of an equity and gold in your portfolio. There could be instances when there is stress in the markets, but the stress in the markets would come because of some stress globally or some stress in the economy, which would lead to kind of gold prices cushioning the impact if you had gold in your portfolio. And therefore, if you have different asset classes in your portfolio, you're able to benefit from the characteristics of each asset class which is there. And therefore, the important thing is to keep investing in a disciplined manner over a period of time and ensure that you have an asset allocation which suits your financial needs. I would say that the first thing is start, because that is something that will ensure discipline. Put money in a scheme which is not too volatile, especially something like a debt scheme, and then start moving that money into equity and build your nest egg in that way.
For the viewers who are watching, because we have a wide spectrum of viewers, how should they approach retirement planning if they're in the 20s or if they're in the 30s or even if they're in the 40s? What's your view?
Again, I think that start, right? That's the first thing for whoever you are. If you've not started today, start today, right? I think that's the most important thing that you have to consider. The second thing is keep invested. I mean, keep investing at different points of time, as I said, through SIPs. Build a relevant asset allocation model, and that's where the difference will come at different ages. So the simplest formula that people have in the market is 100 minus your age. That is what should go into equity. So if you're 25 years old, about approximately 75% of your money will go into equity. Within your equity portfolio, you could look at any diversified scheme that is there. You could look at active schemes. You could look at passive schemes which are giving you exposure to an index and are much cheaper and more transparent in the market. Out of the 25% that is left, you could look at taking exposure maybe 10-15% to a gold asset class and the rest to a debt asset class. Is something that I can think you can kind of start off with. But obviously you should speak to a financial advisor who will look at your needs and your goals and your risk-taking ability to be able to give you that exact number. As you move ahead in age, obviously you have to keep reducing the risk component of your portfolio, right? So the difference between somebody who's 25 versus somebody who's say 50, 60 years old, a person who's 50, 60 years old would obviously have a lesser equity component than what you would have when you're 25. So I think that's the only difference in terms of ages. As you grow older, you have to reduce the risk in your portfolio. That's all.
Fantastic. So the main first step is start. Just get going. Don't just think about it, do it.
Do it.
Thank you, Vishal. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you on Mutual Fund Sahi Hai presents Smart Nivesh, Sahi Nivesh, partnered by Times Network. Thank you so much for watching.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.